3, 5, 4, fum. What up, y'all? It's the Black Critic Guy, and I'm joined today by my good friend Matt Redman. You might see him in future movie reviews to come. And we just got back from seeing
The Hunger Games.
That's right, The Hunger Games, otherwise known as
Jack the Giant Slayer.
And what did we think of the movie?
It was pretty good. It was enjoyable.
In the beginning we were kind of skeptical, but as the movie progressed, the more and more it got better. So, I mean, yeah, it was a good time. So the basic premise of Jack the Giant Slayer, if you didn't already know, follows this kid by the name of
Jack.
That's right, Jack, who's this normal farm boy. He lives an average life. Then one day he's given these magical beans by this monk guy, and all of a sudden he gets it wet, and then, oh my god, giant beanstalks. And then we find out that there's actually a land of the giants, and they're coming to wreak havoc on the human world, and it's up to Jack and his gang, I guess, to stop them. So when I first heard they were making Jack the Giant Slayer, I was just like, oh man, not again. They just keep doing this ever since Alice in Wonderland. They're trying to take these old classic fairy tales and make them more darker and grim and stuff. So what did you think when you first heard they were making Jack the Giant Slayer?
Not another one, please. Don't.
Because you weren't the biggest fan of Snow White and the Huntsman, right?
Granted, I saw that early in the morning, so I might give it another chance.
He was a bit tired when he saw it, but overall, I thought this movie was very enjoyable, right?
Pretty good. What I really liked about the movie is how they brought a lot of the characters that I really didn't think they're going to. Like, I thought just all the giants were going to be totally dumb and just idiotic. You know, like,
and some of them are, I mean, but not all of them. You have the ones that are really smart, they're the leaders, kind of say, and they were pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, I just like that they have like all ends of the spectrum in the group. They didn't like just make them all dumb.
But going off of what Matt says, yes, I really enjoyed the Giants, and I gotta say, at first I was really scared because at first the animation was very bad, and I thought, oh man, these Giants are gonna look like shit. But when we finally got to see the Giants, I mean, this is some good CG animation. I was actually very stunned. I wouldn't be surprised if they get nominated next year in the 2014 Academy Awards for Best Visual Effects, because these Giants looked really realistic. I mean, I felt like they were there almost.
You recall this one scene where they actually had a close-up of the giant's face and you could actually see the pores.
All the details, like facial hair, pores, and all that. So they did a fantastic job there. I actually enjoyed some of the characters. My favorite character was actually Ewan McGregor's character, who played like the head knight. He was always fun. Whenever he came on the screen, I was just like, thank you. I'm glad you're on the screen, because he was the funnest character in this entire movie. What did you think?
I think he was like the midget in Game of Thrones, basically. Every time he came in, he said, oh, here we go, good scene.
Exactly. And I also gotta give it up to Bill Nighy, who voiced the main giant. He was menacing, and he kind of reminded me of when he was playing Davy Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah. He sounded just like him, but I mean, that guy was menacing, and I loved every scene he was in. And I gotta say, the guy who played Jack, Nicholas Hoult, who was also in Warm Bodies, he didn't do a bad job, he didn't do a great job, but he was likable, you know what I'm saying?
Pretty good. I liked the amount of comedy they put in the film. It wasn't too much like I thought it was in the Avengers. I might get some heat for that, but
look at the posters! Look at the posters!
I like the level of comedy. It wasn't too much and it wasn't too less, because if it was too much, I feel like it was going to be a kid's movie, and if it's too less, I feel it was going to be too serious. And it was just right in the middle, and I felt that it was just perfect for that.
3, 5, 4, 4. And the last thing that I really enjoyed about this movie is the last 20 minutes is fantastic. Some epic action scenes. I mean, everyone is just throwing down. You felt like everything was at stake. It was awesome. And I gotta say also, the scene where they were going up the beanstalk was really enjoyable, going off of the whole comedy and Ewan McGregor being a badass. But as much as we really enjoyed this film, there were a couple of things that we didn't like. Mainly that the first 30 minutes of this film was unbearable to watch. Chock full of cliches and just ridiculous and stupid characters, annoying characters. It felt like a kid's movie.
All of the first half of the movie, because everything was just way too cliche, and pun after pun, and cliche line after line.
And you really didn't get invested in the characters. I mean, all of them were just like, whatever, paper thin. And man, the relationship between Jack and the princess is the most forced relationship in this entire film. I didn't feel their bond, their chemistry. I was just like, the princess is very forgettable, and you don't really care much about her, wouldn't you say?
I feel like when they actually finally met up, it was kind of like, meh.
It just happened by coincidence, and oh my god, I love you. I love him. And going back to what I was saying earlier about how the first 30 minutes was kind of unbearable, the animation scene that they did, like retelling the story about Eric and the crown and the giants and stuff, I thought that animation was horrendous. As a person that really loves animation, that was the worst CG animation I've ever seen. And I thought that's what they were going to use for the giants, and I was so scared. Thank God the Giants look nothing like that CG animation. And like you mentioned earlier too, the writing was very weak. And coming from the same guy that wrote The Usual Suspects, you kind of expected a little more.
The writing was just like predictable. I could, you know, there's one point where I didn't want to say it to Tony out loud, but I could see it coming.
But overall, Matt, like, what did you think of this movie?
I gave it a 7 because it wasn't, you know, it wasn't too good. I wouldn't recommend it to someone to go pay to see it. Maybe when it comes out on DVD, that's fine. Go see it. Maybe Redbox, whatever. It's a pretty, you know, it's worth a watch, but it's definitely not worth going to the movie theater and watching.
And going off of what he was saying earlier about how he gave this film a 7 out of 10 because that's his grading system, doing that in my grading system on a 5-point scale, it's the exact same score I gave it, which is a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's not great, but it's a rather enjoyable film and I really enjoyed it. I mean, the last 20 minutes really made up for the abysmal start, and it was a fun adventure through and through. I think it's a fun time. Just maybe see it at matinee price. But anyway, what did you guys think of this film?
Did you like it or did you hate it? And what is your favorite Bryan Singer movie?
Comment below and let us know, and stay tuned. I'll be doing a lot of anime and movie reviews as spring break approaches. Woo! Spring break. And until then, hit that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Welcome to the Black Critic Guy. Like this video if you really enjoyed it, and I'm Tony Wiley II, joined by my good friend Matt Redman. Till then, peace, YouTube.